Ciao, Bellas.
What's going on, everyone?
Okay, today we're locking in to titanium dioxide because I'm gonna tell you all what is going on. David, what's your knowledge of titanium dioxide?
I have no knowledge of titanium dioxide except for the three things I may have heard today throughout the day about titanium dioxide. So I will be spectating most of this video.
Yes. Now, I want to give you a really quick rundown. There's so much to say, but if you guys can just stick with me, I'm going to give you the history of it first, and then I'm going to tell you why it's toxic. So I'm not just like yapping about like how bad it is. I just want you guys like know like the lore of titanium dioxide and its villain origin story. So basically, titanium dioxide comes from like two different places. Like it comes, so it was an titanium was an element that was first discovered in like basically 1800, and then later this like basically it's a naturally occurring compound of titanium and oxygen. So they figured out what titanium was, then they mixed it with oxygen and it became titanium dioxide. When they realized that it was like a pigment that could be commercialized, they started using it to make like a brilliant white color in paints, and it replaced lead paint. So that sounds like decent, right? Okay, we
Sounds like
replaced.
a good time so far.
Right, it sounds good. So that was in the year 1916 to 1918. They began producing it in Norway and the US, and in the 1920s and 30s, they started replacing lead white paint with like titanium dioxide. Then, fast forward 50 years, 1970, it just says widely adopted in cosmetics, food, and sunscreen. Like they started putting it in sunscreen because sunscreen was like white, right? And then they started putting it in cosmetics, and then they started putting it in food. Okay. Now, this was all in the 1970s to 2000s. So, mind you, it's been 26 years now since like anything has happened. And by the way, it's made through a heavy industrial process. Okay. They have to like extract it from those like minerals, which is the rutile, anatase, and ilmenite like compounds or the minerals that they extract it from. But basically, they have to extract it, and then they basically dissolve it in sulfuric acid. Then they produce titanium oxyl sulfate, which is then hydrolyzed to form titanium hydroxide, and then it's heated to produce pure titanium dioxide powder. Now, I'm not a chemist at all. I'm not an expert at this. I'm telling you the processes that it's used, and this is like also not something that I'm like very like, I'm not very like familiar with, but I'm learning, and so I want to share this knowledge.
So, for yourself, or I guess just in general, like, what is a simple way to is the simplest way to describe what titanium dioxide is? Like a brightener, like the whites you think of,
For paint,
like a
yeah,
traditional white picket hat, like
yeah,
a white picket fence, like
that's what they would put it in,
that bright white,
right?
or I guess what you were saying with the sunscreen, like that bright the white that kind of like punches you in the eyes.
Right, that's what they're trying to use it for, which is valid. But then they started putting it in everything: Skittles, candy coating, Mentos, or
When I saw that they put it in M&M coating, my heart broke a little bit.
yeah, like it's really it's crazy. But so let me tell you basically, by the way, the environmental impact of it is scary. Like it basically produces acid rain. It produces toxic gases to like produce all this stuff. And mind you, this is not a preservative in food that makes it like if there are some preservatives, I get it, where it's like they don't want the spread of bacteria, so they're using preservatives. Okay, whatever, valid, there could be a case there. It's not a preservative, it's literally just a colorant. Like it's literally just used to make food like prettier or make it more attractive and more sellable, which it's like at the cost of it, it's not worth it for the environmental cost alone, which is like how much like acid rain and like heavy metal runoff it produces. Like heavy, we know that we all have like heavy metals in us, so
And
it's
like
like
it even says the IARC literally lists it as a possible carcinogen. So like it's definitely not the best thing to have around in your
yeah.
product.
So basically, we're going to give you the studies and we're going to tell you what is now occurring, like what countries are actually taking action. So in um, IARC, which is WHO, the World Health Organization, in 2006 said that titanium dioxide, when inhaled, is possibly carcinogenic to humans. So it's like a group 2B substance or like chemical. Now, basically, they did studies that in rats that showed like lung tumors from long term inhalation. So, a lot of this is respiratory. And mind you, we're like putting like powder, like every single cosmetic has titanium dioxide in it. And it's like literally you're powdering your face with it. You're putting it like on your face and foundation, and then you're like breathing. So you don't think you're inhaling it. And by the way, it's highly toxic. And that's a known thing that it's highly toxic when it's inhaled. They're just saying when it's like ingested in Skittles, they're like, well, maybe it's not as bad. So the European Food Safety Authority in 2021 basically completely said they concluded it can no longer be considered safe due to concerns about genotoxicity, which is DNA damage. So in 2022, the EU completely banned it. Like they put a food, well, only in food, by the way. So um, basically, and then France also published multiple like warnings that when it's ingested, it can accumulate in your organs, it can disrupt your immune response, and it can possibly cause precancerous changes to the colon. So that influenced them to start banning it in food in 2020. And then good old California, the state we know and love. Um, they love putting the Prop 65 warnings, which I think are amazing. But basically, they put that airborne or unbound particles of like titanium dioxide is on their list of chemicals known to cause cancer. Okay. So let's just pause for a moment because that was a lot.
Let that settle in.
Yeah, that's a lot. So basically, the only real like regulation taking place from this is that France was the first to ban it in 2020.
And the EU did something too, right?
Yeah, the EU in 2025 or like very recently, I think it was 2022. Oh, here we go. 2022, the EU banned it in
Yeah.
as a food additive. But France in 2020 banned it in food, period. And then the EU banned it as a food additive in 2022. So it is now 2025, and America is like, other than California, like does not have regulation for it. And like you guys have to understand, this is like 5 years. Like it's gonna take another 5 years, even if they
Right.
start like legislation now. It's gonna be a decade that
Right.
like children have
Yeah.
been consuming it in their Skittles.
Yeah, because essentially the global scrutiny of it has literally only started in the past 5 years. So
Exactly.
so check this out. So if who recognized it 20 years ago, if it was 2006, it essentially took 15 years for one country in the entire world to ban it, and then after one country banned it 2 years later, the entire EU is like, oh wait, maybe this was a good idea,
Right.
maybe we should start doing something. Then fast forward 3 more years where we're at now, and now people are starting to be like, okay, like maybe this shouldn't be in our food, and like this shouldn't be in products that we're consuming on a regular basis.
Yeah, exactly. And we just want to give you guys practical ways too of like how to figure this out. So basically, check for labels that say if they'll say it in the food,
Yeah.
titanium dioxide, or it'll say E171 on European food labels. In sunscreen, it'll say, oh, it's so for titanium free alternatives, you can look for non nano zinc oxide. So it's Babo Botanicals, Raw Elements, Altitude. So you look for brands that are like 100% pure. So makeup, they have Ilia Beauty, which I use, RMS Beauty, Beauty Counter. They might have some
I've heard of
options.
Beauty Counter. I don't think I've heard of the others.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
now you know. Um, yeah, you can avoid ultra white candies and gums. There's so much, guys, and we're so sorry that the world is doing this to you. But nonviolent resistance, if you don't buy it, they won't keep making it. I swear.
Damn.
I promise you.
Mic
Literally,
drop.
stop buying this shit.
Facts. Yeah, it's literally it's I guess right now it's kind of difficult because it's so widespread and like it's literally in everything.
And
But
people
the
don't know any better. Like, I don't blame people for
r-
not knowing. I just
right,
happen to be like passionate about it.
right, exactly, which is cool. And like, yeah, I think that's super cool that you're passionate about it. I think it's good to like when you're aware and when you start. I think part of it is not as much nonviolent resistance against those because for this it's like there's so many products with it as much as like need to shine the light on the products that don't have them and like the ones that are
Yeah,
doing well.
you're so right. There are people out there that are fighting this fight,
Right.
and it's like, why don't we lift them up and celebrate them? Because also, if their supply chain costs come down, it will be like more accessible and cheaper, and then more
Exactly.
companies can enter the
And
market.
if companies that are being more clean with it are making more money, they're then able to make their products more readily available to a wider audience.
Yeah, and then guess what? Then the freaking like targets of the world and shit, like then they'll just stop putting it in their products, or they'll
Right.
give consumers like a very marketable titanium free, titanium dioxide
Exactly.
free option, and then they'll say like, it's so funny. What did we see the other day? It was like, now made without like plastic in
Oh
like
yeah,
some
yeah, yeah.
like, it was like insane. We were like, what?
We're
Like,
like,
is
oh,
that
that's.
something to be
We're like,
proud
so
of?
they were like, oh, so there's been plastic in it the entire time up till
Dude,
now. Well, all right, that sounds good.
yeah, we're being poisoned. But, and look, I just speak from experience. I want to wrap this up because it's 12 minutes, but you know, my hair has thinned over time. My like I'm doing this because I'm on a journey to be healthier, and I've been bamboozled by this shit. So I'm trying to be healthier and regain my health back. So
And I'm learning mostly from her about all of this. But honestly, I've there's been so much that I like when I'll go in and I'll research a little bit after like on my own. Then
yeah, damn.
I'll find some other shit and I'm like, wait, this is
Yeah, it's like,
interesting.
God
So
damn.
so yeah, no, it's cool.
Well, thank you guys. If you ever want to chat about titanium dioxide, you know where to find me.
And y'all can subscribe to the Wavy Network, drop a like, leave a comment. Y'all have a good one.